I'm grabbing.
Mr. John Paul, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Um, nice
Light.
to see you. Or nice to see your name on the screen.
All right. All right. All right. All right. Okay, there we go.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Do you see my shirt?
Heck yeah, dude. Represent. That's what I'm talking about.
I love it. Did I ever tell you the story of when the shirt arrived at my mom's house?
No. Oh no. Did she open it?
Yes.
Oh no. It's a tough
It
explanation.
it was so funny though. She's like, "What is this shirt about?" I'm like, "It's okay. It's my friend's song. It's okay. Just don't worry about it."
That's cool that she was cool about it.
hmm How are
That's
you? Nice to see you. What's new?
Oh man. Not, I mean, if I don't know. I was gonna say not much, but also I haven't seen you in a long time. So yeah, actually, there's like so much. No, everything's good, man. I've been gigging out a lot. I got a new like performance residency at a casino in Detroit, MGM. So I'm playing there
Nice.
every week, which is dope. Working on a new batch of songs. So planning out kind of this year's releases. So I'm super stoked for that. And yeah, man, just vibing.
Wow. How's that going? MGM over there. How is that?
It's great. I've been playing there like once or twice a month since like May of last year. So I've got a good bit of experience there, and I just really it's always a good crowd and everyone always really enjoys it. So it's one of my favorite spots to play. And then like towards the end of 2024, they were like, "Would you we'd love to have like consistent people on each day, and would you be interested in taking Fridays?" I was like, "Absolutely." So I really like it. It's like a different, you never know what you're gonna get, young, old, you get the people like who are just there on like bachelorette parties, or birthday parties of all ages. So it's cool. It's always different, something different every time.
Yes, and Fridays, that's a good day. Do you
Oh
have
yeah.
any drunk people? Any people a little too excited?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think the funniest thing is like they intentionally hire like somebody like me to play in this area, and it's like a lounge bar, and they want it to feel like a lounge, right? So they don't want it to be a club. That's why they stopped having DJs come, because it just gets too rowdy, and people get aggressive, especially you get drunk people who are gambling, and it's just a lot.
Mhm.
So they want it to feel like a lounge and kind of be more chill. Without fail, somebody comes up to me and is like asking for like club music or like ass shaking music. They keep asking me for like Sexy Red and all this stuff. I was like, dog, I can't play Sexy Red on a piano. Like, I don't know how you want me to go about this, but that's always the funniest part is at some point they'll be really enjoying it, and then they'll be like, any chance you could do this? And I'm like, no. They're like, that's okay. It's okay. I was just wondering.
I can't even picture you doing that kind of stuff. That's not
I
even your vibe.
don't know how I the closest I've gotten is I've started doing Pony by Genuine. It's
Yeah.
kind of like the throwback like R&B, they can get down to it type of song. So that one goes over really well. Anytime anyone asks for anything, I'm like, this is the best I can offer you.
Yeah. I love your cover of Sunday Morning by Maroon 5. That one's really good.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a staple. I'm always playing that one.
Yes. First thing I wanted to say, um, I will never start an episode without telling you how much you and your music means to me. I always say when I was 17 and your graduation performance came up on YouTube and it was blowing up, and it inspired me so much to be like, maybe I could do that too. And it completely changed me because I was able to perform as well. And I don't think if I would have seen that, it would have given me the confidence to do that. And I was 17 at the time and I just turned 25.
Wow,
Um,
that's awesome.
do you mind me asking, how old are you? I know you're not
I'm
too older than me.
26. So yeah, no, we're about
26.
the same age.
Oh wow. Oh shit.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
remember we
appreciate
were
you
just like a
saying
year
that.
apart.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, man. It's always like the fact that you've like stuck around, like through the highs and lows since then, and always showed love, always been supportive means a ton to me. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, of course. And I'm a music major now. I don't know if I told you the last time,
Hmm.
but this is my second semester as a music major. I completely switched because it's something that I always loved, but sometimes the arts people are not really on board with that and they want you to pursue something more professional
Oh,
and
yeah.
realistic, and I just kind of said fuck you to all of that, and I'm like I really want to do what I want to do and no one's
Heck
really
yeah,
going to
dude.
stop me. So I've been a music major now, and it's very different than I thought because I always grew up singing and I'd write a little bit, but I'm taking like music history, music production, writing about
Oh,
music. Right now I'm taking like a it's all about sound and like hearing pitches and sound and measuring PSI and stuff like that. And it's a little bit of everything. And I got to take piano and guitar. And
nice.
a class I'm taking right now is called music production for like artists and stuff. It's supposed to help you with performing in front of people, but also collaborating with others. So they
Nice.
put us in these random groups and it's me, I'm a singer, and then there was another singer, and then we have two guitar players and a piano player, all random, and we kind of just have to come up with something from scratch to present to the class. And I'm
Wow.
like, guys, I don't know how to do this. I've never worked with other people. I just sing and I could write little
Yeah.
melody and lyrics.
Sure.
And it was different because I always grew up writing melody and lyrics, but I could never hear what the music would be with it. I just had the melody and lyrics. So I
Sure.
sang a song for them and I sent them a voice memo. And by the time I came back to class, they had this whole thing planned out with piano and guitar to my lyrics.
Wow. That's awesome.
And it completely just hit me and I got emotional and I'm like, I didn't never thought this would be able to happen. So we've been working on my
Wow.
song and there's this thing called capstone, which you have to do like a big project before you graduate to
Yeah.
present to like the board and all that stuff. And a lot of people are doing albums.
Wow.
And on my notes, a bucket list of mine has always been to do an album, but I never thought it was possible. And I'm
Yeah.
like, maybe I just wanted to do covers, but now seeing that this is a possibility, I'm like, this would be a cool thing to have an album to present and to actually put out. So
Yeah.
it brings me back to you've inspired me musically and you've given me a lot of confidence. And there's plenty of other people that inspired me along the way, but you're definitely one of
Sure.
them. So thank you.
I appreciate you saying that, and I'm happy for you, man. That's so. I remember being like when you first started this podcast, and I don't remember if I was how early on I was. I think I was on one of the first guests though.
Yeah.
You were just saying like, if I remember right, you had said you started it just because you wanted to do something to kind of get out of your shell a little more and like get better at it. And now like years later, you're like, it's all put together, all the content looks great, you got all the merch and everything, and like it's just like it's so wild. It's just, we've both been on this journey, like, our own journeys like at the same time and both seeing each other grow. It's been really, really cool.
Yes. Likewise. You got your crew neck, right? The Confabulate crew neck?
Yes, I did. Thank you. Yeah, that thing freaking rocks.
I'm
I
glad you got it. I'm like, I'm gonna surprise him with it. I'm just gonna send it out. So I'm glad you got it.
appreciate it.
Before we get into music, talk to me about how the pizza restaurant, your family business is going. How's that going?
It's great. I was just there today, so slinging some pies. So it's going good. Yeah, I'm not in there too much these days, but I'm still there, 1 or 2 days a week helping out and doing my part and doing some, the scheduling and some of the social media and all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
But
nice.
yeah, it's going good. My sister and brother-in-law are kind of they're poised to take it over. So it's kind of their thing, and I'm just kind of there helping out along the way while I'm doing
Cool.
my thing.
Yeah. Were you guys busy during Super Bowl weekend?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that weekend's always slammed. Like this part of the year, like January, February is always really slow. And then there's like the Super Bowl in the middle. That's just like an absolute like whirlwind of stuff. So yeah, that was a good time.
Yeah. Is the most ordered thing like just pepperoni or is it a combination? What do people order the most?
Pepperoni is definitely the most popular, I'd say, but we also have like a supreme pizza that is like very, very popular. So it's like got like, all the meats and the veggies on it, and that one flies for sure. And then our breadsticks are super popular. I'd say those are probably the three most popular things.
How bomb. I'm gonna try it. I am gonna go to Michigan one day and I will try it.
You got to, dude. I'll
This
hook you
is-
up.
Yes. You went to California.
Yes.
Super happy for you that you went to California to visit your friend. Tell me about your time there. How was it for you?
It was super cool, man. Like, yeah, it was my friend Brian Iglesias, who I released that Footprints project with. He, like, literally 4 days after we released the project and we played a big show together, he moved to LA.
Yeah.
So, and that was kind of pre-planned before we had even started the project. So, and it just all happened to line up all at the same time. So it was cool. We kind of like, I got to see a little bit of the city. We did some exploring and stuff, but really we were trying to lock in and write as much as possible, during that week. And so he was just kind of getting settled in there in his new place. And I haven't really spent much time there at all. So So yeah, it's cool. We went like we saw one of his kind of a friend of his friends perform, and then did a couple things, but for the most part we were locked in the studio pretty much the whole time. So it was super cool. And it was during a massive heat wave. So it was like 100 degrees while I was there, which was like an adjustment for
Oh,
sure.
that's the worst.
Yeah.
Did you
But yeah,
get to
that was good.
did you get to try, have you tried In and Out before? In and Out?
No, I haven't, and I did not try it while I was there.
You gotta try it.
Dude, In and Out. Okay, I've heard of it, but we don't have that in Michigan, and I've never tried it. I will say
Mm.
there was like a street taco stand like 2 blocks from his house, and I had that 3 times while I was there. It was so good, dude. They were just grilling it right up on the street. Oh my God, it was incredible.
Yeah, California, we have some of the best Mexican food. It's the
Yeah.
best.
Dude, I'm a sucker for street tacos. I absolutely love it. And we got at the very, it was like he picked me up from the airport and we got those. And he was like, yeah, I really like this place. It's super close. And then the whole time I was there, every other restaurant I went to, I was like, I wish these were just those tacos again because those were so freaking good.
Love it. Talk to me about the halftime show that you did. That was so amazing. The
Thank
pictures and
you.
videos I saw, I'm like, oh my God, that is incredible. How did that happen? How was it for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was completely chaotic. It was such like a it came out of nowhere. So like we had played a show like November, I want to say it was the 10th or 11th, at a pretty good sized venue we were opening. And so we were kind of really looking forward to that. And that was supposed to be like our last kind of big thing that we had planned for the year. And then it was like, okay, dive into, planning 2025. And then like 3 or 4 days after that show, someone who's a part of booking for the halftime show, who I've known for a while because I did the anthem for the Pistons
Yeah.
during the COVID year. And it was like we went in and like pre-taped it, so it wasn't actually like, and then they would play it before the game because they weren't having fans in the stadium and all that. Um, so I've known this guy, his name's AJ. I've known him since then. So it's been, 4 years or so now. And he's really cool. So I was kind of kept in touch with him, just over social media and sent him my new music when it comes out and invited him to shows and stuff like that. Um, and so yeah, he just hit me up kind of out of the blue and he just called me. He was like, "Yo, are you guys available to do the halftime show on the 30th of November?" And I was like, "I will make sure we are available for that. I will drop whatever I need to drop to make us
Yeah.
available for that." So it was super cool. It kind of came out of absolutely left field and it was just like a whirlwind of like, I've never done anything like that before. And from what I learned after the fact, is they haven't really done bands before for the halftime show, or they have done very limited amount of times. Usually they'll just have like an artist and a DJ playing. So doing a band thing was kind of new for them. So we were I was like, trying to figure out what we could bring for instrumentation. Obviously, we weren't going to bring like the full band setup, but so I was figuring all that out and then, locking everybody in for that. And so I had my no, we had my drummer Anthony and my guitarist Ryan, who I've played with for like 3.5 years now. And then I brought on a trumpet player, who he was super dope. And then we performed with my friend Stoop Lee, who has a song "Work with me." So yeah, it was wild. We literally did a 5 minute set. We had like a minute and a half to like get all our stuff out there and get it set up and plugged in, and then it was
Wow.
just like boom, go. And it was surreal. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah. Were you guys able to rehearse or do a sound check there at the venue?
Yeah, so we sound checked. It was a Saturday night game, and we sound checked earlier in the day, like 2 or 3 o'clock.
Oh,
And then
good.
we just like hung out. Like some of the guys like ran out and got food and stuff, and I just hung out like in the stadium or the arena because it was like empty, so we could kind of just like walk around the arena and stuff and explore a little bit, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. How do you decide like what to come up with, like to perform, what songs? How do you get all that set up?
Yeah, that was a new experience as well because in such a short set,
Hmm.
you kind of go in between like you want to make sure you're playing like you have to cut your songs down the length of each song, right? So you're kind of going between like you want to play enough of each song, to get the point, but you still want to try to play as many songs as you can in that amount of time. So AJ had like he requested two of the songs, Feeling Alive and Work With Me off my project Footprints. And because he just like he heard those and we're like, oh, these would be great for this. And then I asked if we could add one more and kind of cut them all down. And I added Give Everybody Hell, which is another song off the Footprints project. Um, so yeah, it was just trial and error. I like, took the songs and like chopped them up in a bunch of different ways and like set it to like a 5 minute like period in the recording software, you know. And I was
Mhm.
just taking the files and moving them around and figuring out like what transitioned well and what we could do to keep it all under 5 minutes and keep it high energy and interesting, you know. So it was definitely a learning experience. I've never done a set that short or arranged anything like that.
Wow. Would you say that's the biggest show you've done, or have you done shows that are bigger than that?
No, that was for sure the biggest one I've done. Yeah, I mean
Wow.
it was like it it was a sold out game. Like they were not selling any more tickets, you know. So it's like 20 something thousand people. And not everyone was in the stands, you know, because it's halftime, but they had it on all the screens throughout the concourse. Like if you're in line to get concessions, they were on the screen. Like it was, and plus it was also streamed on certain platforms as well, like the NBA's, like if you pay for their subscription to watch the game, you could watch it through that, and it was streamed on a handful of other things. I think part of it was on cable TV as well.
Hmm.
So plus the at home audience, yeah, it was crazy.
That's exciting. That's so cool. Is there any other events or venues like goals for you that you would want to perform at or do again or anything like that?
Definitely. I mean, we performed at this venue in Detroit called L Club last summer,
Hmm.
and that was super fun. That's like a venue I've always wanted to play. So that was a really, really cool experience. I would love to go back there. There's a few like there's like the bigger kind of like the next size up of venues in Detroit that I really like to get into as like an opener for some of the like the touring acts. And but at this point, I'm contemplating and trying to do like a kind of a DIY show type of thing where we just rent a space, and that's not necessarily a venue, you know, we bring our own sound, we bring our own lineup, our own everything,
Yeah.
and just kind of like put together like an experience, you know, from start to finish. I'd really like to experience that, and kind of the back end of what planning something like that would look like. So I think this year we're going to try to do that, and then we're going to try to snag some, you know, some festival slots and some opening spots along the way for this year. But I think it's like big picture wise, I mean, I dream of every venue. I dream of every arena and every stadium and everything.
It's so cool. Can you walk me through what it's like performing at a festival? I know there's many performers and you have your time to perform and to set up and to get out. So can you walk me through um the experience and working through performing at a festival?
Sure. Yeah. The most recent one we did was Arts Beats and Eats, which is like this big kind of street festival in Royal Oak, Michigan. And that's a great festival. We performed it a couple times. So for that one, like we, you know, show up like maybe 90 minutes before you're supposed to get on stage. Obviously, you can get there as early as you want, but you got to be kind of around your stage about an hour and a half. Load all your stuff in. They usually have like a designated area for you to park. They'll like golf cart you over to your stage to get all your gear over there. And then for that festival, there's 30 minutes in between each act. And they keep like the drums and a lot of and the amps and stuff. Like the festival will provide that so that there's not a complete, you don't
Mm,
have to completely tear down and set back up. But there's basically 30 minutes to get the other band stuff off and get all your stuff on and sound checked, you know, and you just got to hustle and have all your stuff like ready to go, you know, as soon as that other band's done. So it's definitely a little chaotic and but it's fun. But 30 minutes honestly is a pretty good amount of time for a switch over. Like we've played a lot of shows where it's like 10 to 15 minutes, you know, and that's like
mhm.
stressful. So they give you a little bit extra time, which is nice. But it's definitely like for a festival like that, it's a, you know, it's a street festival. There's a lot of food and there's rides and all that kind of stuff. You really just are curating your set to try to get people to stop and listen, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
try to catch people walking by and, you know, just keep the whole set upbeat and interesting and fun, you know?
Yeah. I recently got to see how a festival like that, how much time, effort, and hard work goes into it because my instructor last semester, she was the executive director of the Monterey Jazz Festival here where I'm from in
Oh,
Monterey.
wow.
And one of our assignments was to go to the jazz festival and to take notes, to interview some of the sound engineers, some of the artists. And this is like a very famous festival, and anyone from like Bob Dylan to Tony Bennett, Samara
Wow.
Joy, a bunch of famous jazz artists have performed there. And it's crazy to see. And then she would tell us in class all the stuff, like she's in charge of booking all these artists. If they need hotels, she has to be in charge of that.
Wow.
Clint Eastwood lives in Carmel and he's part owner of the Monterey Jazz Festival.
Okay.
So he was there to receive an award. And his friend, maybe you've heard of him, Morgan Freeman.
Right. Yeah. Once or twice, I think. Yeah.
So my instructor, she was in charge of making sure he landed in Monterey, getting transportation for him, walking him to where he's supposed to go. Like she
Yeah.
walked us through that, and I'm like, you go through so much to make sure a festival like this happens. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I got a little taste of it. It's very chaotic, those festivals.
Yeah, it really is. Honestly, on the musician side, it's not bad. We just, we prepare our stuff, we show up and we do our thing. But no, I know like I've met now the people like who are in charge of putting together our festival, which is not as, not even as big as that, it sounds like, but yeah, it's a little logistical nightmare. But they pull it off every year and it's always smooth and there doesn't seem to be any major issues. It's
Yeah.
my brain cannot comprehend like overseeing that much stuff going on. But
Yes.
it's impressive.
Yeah. Before we dive into your music, my favorite song of yours will always be Love's Not For Everyone. I love so many of your songs, but I always love that one. And I know you released it a couple years ago and it's very
Yeah.
meaningful and sentimental to you. I just want to know about your relationship to that song now. I know you don't sing it a lot because it's from a
Yeah.
special place. So, what is your relationship with that song today?
Yeah, I mean, I would say don't perform it much. I do in I do have you ever been to a So Far Sounds show? They
Mm,
have So Far Sounds is like it's like an international company, but they have a Detroit division. And they have an LA division too. But basically they curate these shows and it's usually like between like somewhere between 20 and 50 people to come show up, like that's like the cap depending on the venue. And but it's like very intimate and they will curate these shows and people buy tickets without knowing the lineup
got
and then
it.
they will announce the lineup to them whoever bought the tickets like 36 hours beforehand. And it's a very like people are there to watch the music and they are quiet and they just sit there and just like soak it in and connect with the artist. It's a really cool platform. I've played a handful of those shows and that's really the only place I ever really play Love's Not For Everyone these days just because
Mm,
it's the only place where I feel like I can like where it gets quiet enough to like for me to really like allow that song to do what I mean for it to do, you know what I mean? And to express it in that way. So I yeah, definitely still don't perform it much. It's definitely like a little it's definitely like a little, a little time capsule of that part of my life. And it's like it's my life is so different now that it's just so
yeah.
wild. But that was uh yeah, it was definitely kind of this maybe not the start, but it was a big step on my journey of writing and producing more stuff on my own before bringing it into a studio setting, and having like flushing out ideas on my own.
Yeah.
That was kind of during that part of my professional life, so it's definitely a reminder of that. But I'm still a lot of very proud of that song and I always have a special soft spot for it. But when I do perform it and it's the right setting, it still like connects, the same way it did for me, and it, connects to the room in a really special way.
Yeah, because those lyrics are so relatable, and everyone can relate to those lyrics, and they've been in a similar situation. So good
Yeah,
job writing it. It's so good.
thank you.
Yes, let's talk about Footprints. This is the first time we get to talk about it
Yeah,
before, since the last time you came on. I love the album cover. I wanted to start
thank
off
you.
there,
Heck yeah.
because I love it. I immediately get to see the both of you, and I could tell that you two created this. Um,
Yep,
obviously, maybe not by yourselves. I'm sure you guys had help along the way, but
definitely.
part seeing both of you guys here with all the instruments and all the equipment, it kind of sets the tone. So tell me about that album cover first.
Yeah, so actually Brian Hugo Iglesias was my co-collaborator for the whole project. And
Mhm.
that was actually his vision was that with the album art. I really struggle with like interpreting my music visually, whether it be for videos or for album art or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so I always look for, outside opinions on that kind of stuff and try to pick people's brains. But Brian is like phenomenal at that. And he's very, very good at he's got great taste. And he's good at, hearing a sound and kind of articulating what it should be visually and then executing on it. So he's very talented. And I was lucky to be able to work with him on that project and our future projects. But yeah, that was his vision. And he kind of talked through, like the project has kind of a retro sound, so there's a lot of retro equipment in there, some like older synths and stuff like that. And he was like, I think it'd be cool to do like to set up this studio in the space in Detroit called Eightfold. That's just like a big white room. And he was like, I think it'd be really cool to do the studio equipment because this is like a studio project, like we're not like a band, but it was like a studio project that we worked on together.
Yeah.
So and that was really like everything was created. This sounds weird. Everything was created in a studio, you know what I mean? Whereas it wasn't created to necessarily be performed live. Although now it is, but it was just like it was a true studio project.
Yeah, and you can see it in the cover. How did you meet Brian? How did you meet Brian?
Yeah, so we met through there's this company in Detroit called Assemble Sound, and they're a label, but they also do this studio residency where essentially they like you can apply, which I did, and then they select a handful of artists every year to do like a year-long residency program to have access to their studios, and they'll do programming where they bring in guest speakers and things like that. And it's an incredible program. It completely altered the course of my life and career for sure. So I got into that I want to say it was like the end of 2022, I think. And yeah, so it started the end of 2022 and it was a year long. And I was a resident. Brian actually worked for Assemble before he moved. And I think he still works with them on some stuff, but he was an employee of theirs. So, and we would do these song reviews where everyone would bring music in that they're working on and play it, and everyone would give feedback on,
Yeah.
think you should do this here. I think you should do that there. You should turn this up, turn that down. Um, and it seemed like every time at a song review, I would put a song up and Brian would put a song up, and it was like the styles were so similar, like where you could just tell it'd be such a complementary sound to each other, like it was just different enough, but we were both bringing something to the table that would just work really, really well together. And I struggle with collaboration, which I know you talked about it as well. But for me, it's like so intimidating, like getting in the studio with people you don't really know that well.
Yeah.
It's just like it's very far out of my comfort zone. So one of my goals for that residency was to get better at that and get more comfortable with that. So we constantly talked about like, yeah, we got to get in the studio together. We got to get in the studio together. And then we finally did, and we made this one song called Arrived, actually. And we never really were doing anything with it. And then we ended up getting a sync placement with it. Uh, so through ESPN. So they wanted the song, and we were like, we should make more of that. Like that, like clearly, went over well and things like that. So once that got placed, we ended up getting back in the studio and yeah, just started we didn't really intend on making a project. We were just going to make like a song or two. And
Wow.
then it just kept going on a roll. And we are like, I guess we have a project now.
Wow, that's insane how naturally it all ended up going.
Yeah, it
Cool.
truly was.
Yeah, and Footprints. Why that title? How'd you guys come up with Footprints?
So we actually sat down, listened to the entire project when it was about done, and made a list of potential song titles.
Got it.
Um, and one of the lyrics in the song "Give Everybody Hell" off the project is wiping the footprints off my face. And so we kind of latched on to that lyric, and because footprints can mean so many things, like in that context, it's like not being stepped on anymore and getting up and but
Yeah.
it also means like leaving your mark on things, which is what we were trying to do with this and kind of or and stepping into a new kind of atmosphere. So it just had a lot of meanings that were representative of what we were doing and where we were headed, so it just resonated.
Yeah, I love that. I'm trying to write something now. I don't know if I'm trying to write something in regards to like I was watching an interview of an artist and they were explaining like a relationship and they said, "Oh, it was just like one big chemical misfire." And that really stuck with me. I'm like, chemical misfire sounds really cool for like
Yeah.
the name of a project and then having the songs kind of all fit together to explain that because I looked it up and it's literally about like a car engine. Sometimes if you have too much oil or too much of something, it's a big old chemical misfire, a bunch of stuff, and it kind
Oh
of blows
wow.
up.
Okay.
But when you think about it like in a relationship or maybe you have feelings for someone, there can be so many emotions and anger and love and stuff, everything combining into one. Maybe it's not really meant to be and it just won't work out. So it was one
Yeah.
big chemical misfire. So I kind of have that idea rolling around. I don't know where I'm gonna go with it, but I think it
I
sounds
like
cool.
that. And I feel like I haven't really heard that, like I haven't really heard that it's not like an overdone thing.
Yeah, I looked it up on Apple Music and I'm like, nothing is named chemical misfire. So I'm like,
Heck,
at least
dude, you know
it's
how hard
something
it is to
different.
find that?
Dude, literally, yeah, there's so many songs with the same title, so many albums.
Yep.
Yeah, so okay, let's dive into Footprints.
Cool.
Um, Do you think this sound of all the songs is different from your previous stuff? Because obviously I've listened to it and I love your voice and your voice sounds very natural to it. But I think there's some songs that are different than what you were doing before. So how different do you think it is?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a massive. I mean, it's in the same like universe.
Hmm.
And I think what I'm bringing to it is very similar to what I bring to my own solo music.
Yeah,
But having Brian in it and what he brings on a writing and a production level is like a completely new element to anything I've ever made. And he's just got and then like he's just an absolute force. And so like having him like expressing his full creativity on it as well. It created something I never could have made on my own. And it's just, and that's the beauty of collaboration. And especially, we were kind of in lockstep the whole time with the music, and it just felt so natural and so easy that with both of our skill sets combined, it created something, yeah, really unique and special that I never could have done otherwise.
yeah. There's a lot of vocal effects on your voice on quite a few tracks. Was that
Yeah.
mostly his idea? It sounds great, but there's a lot of it.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think it was a way, when you're putting together like a project, once it kind of got to a point where it's like, okay, we have these songs written, and then it was like, now we have a project and move forward, with that in mind. But it was kind of just to make it so there's a little different flavor, throughout the music, and it's not the same, you're not hearing the same exact voice and,
Yeah.
and I guess character, throughout the entire project.
Yeah. What would you say was the hardest one, either to write or to produce or maybe to sing vocally? Is there one that was difficult?
Um, huh. That's a great question. Wow. I would say the hardest one to record
Hmm.
was probably Seasons Change Around Me, which is the last track. And it's like a ballad. And it's really the only slow one on the project. But
Hmm.
and this is Brian's genius, but we wanted like a choir, like, and that when the key changes and there's this big choir sound comes in. Sorry, my screen keeps moving and I actually don't know how to turn that off.
I think
But
it happened in our last interview too. It was
it
going
might
like
have.
this.
And I just got this new laptop too, and I had my old one set up to all my settings, and I don't know how to change this one. So, but anyways, um, we wanted this big choir sound when that key change hit. And so what we did was like we had me, Brian singing like the tenor bass, and then we had two female vocalists, and they were singing, soprano alto. And it was her name is Chesney and Jade. They're super talented, both from Detroit. But so basically we had set up like I want to say it was 24 spots on the ground and made it so that and then set up two mics and then kept recording so that all the spots got stood in by somebody by the end of it. So it's basically when you put it all together emulated in a full room of choir, like it emulated 24 bodies singing the parts, which is like it was just I've never put that much. like science into my recording, because I didn't know that that was even a thing. So that was definitely like that was a long night of measuring where to put the spots and recording, and it was just, but it was really, really, really cool. It was just like I've never put that much into recording like background vocals on something before, and it was unique to me.
Wow. And that was in my notes for later. I put seasons change around me. Let's talk about that choir. And in parentheses, I hear you back there because I hear your vocals back there too.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah, it was a wild experience recording that in that way, but it was cool.
What does a process like that entail? Like when you know you want to get a choir, do you post on social media or do you reach out to people you know, or does Brian know people? How do you get people involved into doing that?
Yeah, we reached out to both Jade and Chesney were friends of both of ours. I think Brian had reached out to him and kind of coordinated the date with it,
Mm.
and all that. But yeah, just friends of ours. But honestly, like in the past and for most of my stuff, and that was kind of the first time I'd really brought in background vocalists, like normally I can sing like range wise, I can hit the alto and soprano parts, like it's not gonna sound great, but it's gonna sound good enough for background vocals, to be kind of buried in a mix.
Yeah.
Um, so I had never really gone about like having other voices come in to do background vocals. So that was another new experience for me as well. But yeah, just friends and luckily really talented friends.
Yeah, I love it. And the first song on it is Write Our Story. Who's doing the backgrounds on the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? Who's doing
That's
that?
Brian.
Oh,
Yep.
that's Brian.
Yep. I think it was both of us actually. I think we were both like standing like next to each other away from the mic and just kind of yelling into the mic.
Oh, cool. What would you say Write Our Story is about?
I think it's just about like feeling kind of young and free, and just feeling like, I guess I'm feeling a little more in control of your life, and just that kind of freeing feeling of like, we can, this life is whatever we're gonna make of it, and we're gonna make it freaking awesome.
Yeah, which I got that same message with a lot of them, even feeling alive, making the most of my life alive and
Yep.
give everybody hell, finally free, shed the weight that's been holding on me.
Yeah.
I got that vibe a lot. And yeah, I feel like a lot of us feel that way, like mid 20s, like just want to break free, like I am who I am, let me do what I want to do.
Yeah, and I feel like this part of our life is just so like, I mean, I guess it's probably always this way, but it's just very transitional. It doesn't really matter if you're going to school and getting out of school, or if you're getting in and out of long-term relationships, moving to new cities, like whatever it is, like it's just a very transitional part. And I think Brian and I were both feeling that for different reasons.
Mm.
I was going through my own transition and he's going through his own transitions. And that definitely is emulated in like the Seasons Change Around Me song. We were really like, he was gearing up for this big move to LA, and I was kind of coming out of a very turbulent part of my career, and kind of finding this bit of stability, and just feeling, yeah, really empowered by that.
Yeah. And vocally when you're recording, how do I want to ask this? Because in Feeling Alive, your background vocals there, you have a lot of raspiness and growl to your voice, and you hit some crazy notes. And especially in Give Everybody Hell, towards the
Mhm.
bridge part, your
Oh
voice
yeah.
goes insane. And I put a timestamp. I hope you don't mind. I did want to,
Oh.
so people can hear this because I'm like, oh my God, John Paul.
That's exactly my goal when I do that, just so you know.
Mm.
It's for you to say, "Oh my God."
Right here.
Yep.
So I want to know, do those things come naturally to you? Is it planned? Like, that's insane. You're so talented. You're so gifted.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think when I get in the studio, like there's the parts of the song that you like, there's so much recording, especially like in the music that I make. It's very vocal heavy and it's very background vocal heavy. So there's a lot of parts to record, and recording vocals is like a long, grueling process for a song like that. But once you kind of get all the like main parts and all the like the parts that you have written for the song, you get to like end like every recording session with like, okay, now let me just like screw around for the next like 15 to 20 minutes and just like try stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And so most of like the big notes and like the background, like the little background things, like I call them, they're called ad libs, but most of those parts come from that portion of the recording process. And anytime I hit that part of the process, I'm always at least one take. I'm like, how high can I go in this song? Like, like how high could I take this where it's not going to sound bad, And a lot of times it does sound bad, and then you've gone too far. But like, it's just like it's very fun. It's like that's like the rewarding part of the recording for me is like just getting to do all the things that I can do with my voice, and seeing how far I can push it. And sometimes it makes it in the song like that one does.
That is so, I remember when I heard it, I'm like, that is insane.
That one doing that live was definitely like when the first time we performed the song live, I was like I made a huge mistake putting that in the record.
Yeah, because every night is different. Sometimes your voice is different. You don't know if you're gonna be able to hit it that night.
Yep. Yeah. So that took a lot of practicing and like making sure I could hit it every night because I was like, I cannot screw that part up live. The whole band cuts, and I'm like, if that doesn't sound good, this is gonna really be embarrassing.
Yeah. I want to talk about harmonies with you again.
Yeah.
You did some great harmonies with some of the tracks, and I've worked with harmonies, but I feel like it's easier when it's my voice because I know my voice very well and I know where to find the harmony notes pretty easily. But
Yeah.
with my group right now, I'm struggling with it. They're like, "Oh, just go a third down or a third up," but I didn't grow up with that kind of stuff, so I'm trying to hear it in my head. And if third tone is different than mine, it's hard to kind of
Sure.
match it. So, talk to me about harmonies. How does that process go for you?
Yeah. So I used to record with this guy named Matt Giroux down in Nashville when he was like one of the first producers I ever worked with. And now he's really like popping off and doing his thing, which is dope. But he's credited on a lot of my like earlier music, like Heartbeat and 321 and Miss You Every Time, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So he was very big on like because he was down in Nashville and I would go down there to write and record with him. He was very big on like I need you to record every vocal part that I could possibly need so that like because you're leaving, like I'm not going to have you just like call in and come do another part, So I really started to kind of appreciate the process of recording harmonies with him because it was like we were doing so many takes of every single part to make sure he had enough, and I think that really kind of and one piece of advice, I can't remember if it was him or the manager I was working with at the time gave me for getting better at it and being able to hear it a little more naturally is to start harmonizing with like records, like just music that you're listening to on a daily basis. And just start, even if there's not harmonies in there, just find them and sing along in that way.
Got
And
it.
I started consciously doing that to get better at harmonies. And now to this day, I almost never sing along to music anymore. I'm always either like harmonizing or ad-libbing or whatever, and so that completely changed the way I consume music, but it also helped me like, be able to find stuff like almost instantaneously when we're in the studio for the most part.
Got it. That's what I'm struggling with right now. Yeah, I can't hear the harmony note and I'm playing with it, but I just don't know. So the more I practice it and the more you just keep going at it, it'll become stronger.
Yeah, if you just do it with like the songs you're listening to, doesn't matter what it is. And it's kind of fun to find harmonies on songs that should not have harmonies. You know what I mean?
Got
Like
it.
if you're listening to like I can't think of a good example, but like some hip hop song that really should not have a harmony and would sound very dweebish and not as cool with a harmony. But it's like you find a harmony and it's just like a fun little challenge.
Yeah. But do you usually go down or do you go up or does it depend?
I always go up,
Okay.
but that's because I have a higher voice generally than most, especially the male artists that I listen to. But if you go like, if here's your bass line, usually you'll go up to a third and a fifth, and then there's like more intricate harmonies that you can find in there that I'm not technical enough to know the names of. But if you go up to a third, once you find it, you just drop an entire octave and you have the lower third, and it's like, so once you find like if I'm trying to get like a big sound and I'm recording something, I'll find those like the melody, the third and the fifth, and then I'll just do all three of those notes as low as I can and as high as I can, and then you'll get a pretty big, so you can, it's the same like if the note is C and you go up to an E, it's the same, you can either go up to an E or down to that E, but you're still going to the E. You know what I'm saying?
Got it. Okay,
So
I
for me,
can't
it's more
wait.
natural to find it going up and then dropping an octave if I'm trying to go down?
Got it. Okay, I know what you mean. I know what all that technically means. It's
Yeah.
just hard to know if I'm actually hitting it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll like, even if I'm recording and I'm having a hard time, I will literally find it on the piano. Like the melody is this note. So the third up from that must be this note, and I will literally like, I'll be like ready to record and like I've hit the record button and I'm just like hitting that note on the piano right beforehand so I can, hear it. So sometimes it helps if you actually, map out what notes you're trying to find on a piano. Or if you have the guitar player there too, sometimes they can help you and help you locate that note.
Hmm. And when you're singing with other people, do you prefer to take the melody or do you prefer to take harmony or does it depend?
Honestly, I don't know if I have a preference. I don't sing with other people too much. Like usually, like
Okay.
I've had background vocalists like perform with me, but obviously in that sense, I'm always doing the melody. Um, and I did do like a duet song with this singer from Detroit named Isis DeMille, who's super 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 good. Uh, and so we kind of would alternate between lead and harmony parts, and so that was really cool. My favorite thing to do is ad lib. Like if like when we did seasons change around me live, we had like and like after the key changed and the bridge part comes in with the big choir, we had like the background vocalist kind of carrying that part while I could just like ad lib and do runs and stuff over it. And that's the funnest part for me as a vocalist for sure.
Nice. Yeah. And also, so for example, my classmate, he presented his song and he wants me to sing it because he's not really of a singer. But when he sings it, that's a very low place for me. I could barely hit it.
Yeah.
So should I go an octave up? Because it's a lot more comfortable for me.
I mean, I think so, as long as he's okay with it. I would
Yeah.
say like, you can go the full octave, or if he's willing, you can just move it up like incrementally. You can
Okay.
just change the key up a few half steps, which is an option as well. But if you're comfortable doing the octave, that's definitely the easiest thing to do. And I'll do that like when I'm at my gigs and covering music, I'll do stuff an octave up or an octave down or whatever, feels good and sounds the best.
Mm, got it. Okay, thank you. Thanks for doing this
Yeah,
lesson with me.
for sure. Happy to.
Um, future projects. I know you're always writing, you're always working on stuff.
Yeah,
Um, anything coming this year? Anything in specific you're working on?
definitely. So it was kind of I was in a weird spot after Footprints came out. Last year I put out Footprints, and
Yeah.
then before Footprints I put out a project called A Mere Starting Place. And like that after Footprints came out, that was like the first time in a long time that I actually had like no music to that I was like putting out, you know what I mean? Like I just like put it everything I had out, all at in within, 6 or 7 months of each other. So it was the first time I was like starting from scratch again, which was pretty intimidating to be honest. So last like 4 or 5-ish months have been spent, writing and kind of trying to try new things in the studio. And so I kind of have my own like solo batch of songs that I'm working on, and then also some more stuff with Brian that I'm working on, and hopefully plan on going back out to LA for at least a couple days and try to just lock in and make some more music with him. So I'm planning on probably not a project, but at least a batch of singles, both solo and with Brian this year. So one of them should be coming within the next, hopefully, few weeks, which would be cool.
Nice, nice. Let me know when you go back to LA. I'd love to come down and meet you in person.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yes. And also, is there any kind of genre or kind of sound that's a goal of yours to tackle at some point? Is there something that you kind of always wanted to do musically?
It's funny that you say that. Well, first of all, with my solo stuff that I'm working on, it like I definitely try to get out of my box a little bit. And some of it is like falls pretty close in line to what I've put out before, and some of it's like really different. But there's one song in particular I'm like stoked for, and it's something I've always wanted to do, and I didn't expect it to work out, but it did. But it's a song that's just completely a cappella. It's just like a bunch of vocal parts doing like that. It's basically just creating the instrumental out of vocals. So that's something that I've always kind of had in the back of my mind that I wanted to do. And then one day was in the studio and I was like, screw it, let's just try it. And it turned out to be something really cool. So that should be coming out this year, and I'm stoked for that also.
That's exciting. That's really cool.
Thanks.
I have something similar, and in class they wanted me to do something like that, work with production and vocal layering. And
Nice.
there's a song called Hide and Seek by Imaging Heap.
Okay.
Um, and I don't know if you heard What You Say by Jason Derulo, one of his biggest
Yeah.
songs. That part, the What You Say, that's from her song towards the end. It's a sample.
Oh, okay.
So I did a cover of hers, but if hers is very, there's different layers and but also she uses like this auto-tune kind of thing.
Okay.
So I did that same thing. I just sang it in like 8 different times and kind of played with it and turned it in and everyone liked it, thank God. But I'm like, it's so insane how much time, effort, hard work goes into producing and how much hours that you have to put in. It's insane. But we
Yep.
love every step of it. It's so much fun.
Yeah, it is. And it's rewarding, you know. I think
Yeah.
like, at times it can get into this kind of, if you're in a rut, you can get into where you're creating and creating and creating and like and you're not landing on anything, and it can be, and at that times the process can just be grueling. But when you're like onto something, and that's how I felt with this last one. I mean, it's literally, I can't remember how many vocal, I think it's like 60 or 70 vocal tracks and that's the entire song. But it was like once I felt like I was like headed somewhere, it was like time went by like that, and all of a sudden I just like had a song in front of me, like yeah, it's very rewarding.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, we're getting close to the end. I didn't want to take too much time from you. It's been almost an hour, but um do you have a question for me? Anything you want to ask me before we wrap up?
Um, well, I know you're in school, but what's your next like kind of creative endeavor and project that you're trying to, I know you mentioned the album, but what's your kind of, and it could be that, but what's your kind of next creative project that you're going towards?
Yeah. I think the album will be more in class stuff, like on campus,
Okay.
with the production class, so that'll be fun. This is my last season of the podcast for now. Um, which is why I wanted to have you on. You were part of the first season and throughout the year,
Yeah.
so I'm like, I cannot do this without John Paul. So thank you so
Well,
much.
I'm honored. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And I don't know. Well, the podcast was never like my calling. It was never something that I thought I would do. I just kind of went with it and I kept going. But
Yeah.
music and singing was always my number one. But I've always been very creative and artistic since I was a kid. So I've always loved to write and work on stuff. I've been writing a book since I was like 21. So for a few years,
Oh,
I've been writing this book. I've gone
okay.
left and right with it. It started off as a memoir, but I'm like, nah, I don't think I want all that stuff out there. So I
Yeah.
changed it to like the third person and I made up a bunch of characters and I added a bunch of stuff. It's funny, it's personal, it's like it's very touching, but also a lot of life advice and it's been fun. So I've been writing a book. I want to sing more. I'm doing the national anthem for a baseball game in 2 months, which will be fun.
Nice. I know it seems like you've been singing the anthem quite a bit lately.
That's like all I can do. I don't really play, so
Yeah.
anytime I can sing for stuff, I'm more than happy to do it.
Yeah.
But this time I'm gonna have earpieces because the first time I did it, I'm singing and then I hear the echo 3 seconds later in the audience,
Yep.
and I'm like, concentrate, concentrate, concentrate.
Yep.
And there's so much going on. I'm like, what's the key? What's the key? So
Yep.
this time I have my earpieces so I can really dial in.
Good stuff.
I don't know if
Yeah.
you've had bad sound before, but it was hell.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, I used to do the anthem in high school, and it was just, a crappy microphone in a crappy gymnasium, and it was just like, yeah, that was definitely a big learning curve.
Yes, so I'm trying to do more of that stuff and sing more and write more. Yeah, I'll be graduating in about a year, spring of 2026.
Oh,
Um,
exciting.
I still work for my dad's business. I do love doing that. It's been really rewarding and very cool, but I will always keep art and music and everything. I started doing covers when I was 17. I kind of put a pause on that, so I'd love to do covers on YouTube again, but
Nice.
maybe play a little more with TikTok and Instagram because I think it's really cool, like things to pop up on your feed and you get to discover singers and songs. And
Yeah.
I feel like on YouTube, it's a little more segregated. People actually have to go to YouTube and kind of
Right.
find you, which is the podcast too. People have to go to Apple Podcasts and to Spotify.
Right.
And it's nice. People still listen and I love it. It's really, really cool. But I think I'd love to do play a little more with social media because I don't do a lot of it. I only go on to promote whatever episode comes out and then I kind of
Right.
skedaddle because
Right.
I'm not on there to see people's stories or to see what's going on with other people. I just kind of there to promote and then I leave.
Yeah.
So if I can maybe post more and play a little bit more with that. Um, yeah, nothing too much. I'm going to a bunch of concerts. I'm going to see Coldplay in May, which I'm
Oh,
excited
cool.
about. Second time seeing Coldplay. I love them.
Nice.
Kelly Clarkson announced a residency in Vegas, so I'm trying to see what dates work to go to Vegas to go see her.
Nice.
Beyonce just announced a tour. I don't know how I'm gonna do that, but I'll make it
That
somehow.
one sounds expensive.
Yeah, it is. It's insane. So, yeah. Oh, I forgot to ask you, have you seen Wicked yet? Have you seen Wicked?
I did see it. Yeah, I saw it in this like second weekend of December or something. It had been out for a couple weeks, but yeah, I saw it in the theater. It was incredible.
Yes, I've been asking everyone this season. I'm like, have you seen it yet? Because I grew up, I'm still a musical theater. I'm a big Broadway fan. So when it came out, it was just so cool to see them do that and to sing live. And yeah, I just wanted to ask you.
Yeah, I mean they did an incredible job with the movie too, I thought. I've never seen like the full Broadway play of it.
No.
But I'm familiar with, we performed the music in choir in high school and stuff, so I was always familiar with the music and it's great. But I'd never seen the full thing played out like that, and yeah, so it was super cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on. Thank you for being a constant guest throughout the years.
Heck
We'll keep in touch. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
yeah, man, I appreciate you. Thank you. Have a good night.
Let's take a picture before we.
Oh yeah, good call.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
1, 2. All right, we're good. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Catch you later, man.
Bye.